Hi, this is James DeNormandie. I was the moderator for the sponsor talk that LandVest gave just a little bit ago from 2:30 to 3:30. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit record, so I'm just giving a kind of a brief synopsis of the talk. It was well attended. We had about 27 or so folks, some good back and forth, and some great questions. So it was definitely well worth our time. I'm going to post the slide deck for anybody that's interested in it. And we did play a couple of videos, or we played one video during the talk. I'm going to take the opportunity to replay that video in this recording, and then also play another video that was put up by one of our project managers, Jim Monahan, who also gives a good summary of some of the ways that LandVest can help private clients. Especially private clients who are interested in conservation outcomes. So again, I apologize for forgetting to record, but let's just move through a little bit of the material. The PowerPoint that we gave, and let me share my screen. The PowerPoint that we gave was a collection of case studies that Keith, Nick, and I presented. We talked briefly about the LandVest itself. LandVest is it's a little bit more than 50 years old now. It was founded in 1968 by a small group of 4 guys that had an array of skills that really complemented each other well, ranging from real estate to forestry and timber management to land planning. And after a few different configurations, they made it through their first couple of decades. Since then, LandVest has grown over the years. Currently, there are around 150 people, and there are 3 groups kind of organized into 2 big bins. There's a residential brokerage division that is home to a residential brokerage group that focuses on high-end residential throughout New England. But there's also a consulting group within LandVest that focuses on appraisals and valuation of many high-end properties. And since conservation is such an important component to many of those properties, as well as those landowners, a lot of times you'll have properties that are legacy properties that have been with the family for generations, and they're not always interested in selling it to the highest bidder, but are really interested in learning more about conservation. So we often will work with clients, long-standing clients, on conservation outcomes. It's a private firm. We focus on advising mostly private landowners, fiduciaries, and institutional clients, although we have worked with land trusts and municipalities as well. And as I said, the thing that differentiates us is that we integrate land planning, valuation, forest resources, and the residential and timber brokerage. We have it all in-house. We're able to kind of work with each other internally, and as a result, bring a lot of information to clients with a real view of their choices and the financial implications of their choices to help guide them and make decisions. I'm not actually going to go through the case studies. They're kind of self-explanatory. Keith gave 2 good case studies that are kind of in his wheelhouse. One with lime timber in Otis, Massachusetts, and how he helped them over actually a significant number of months, probably 18 to 24 months. He helped bring a conservation project across the finish line. The Mike's Family Trust is a recent transaction that happened during COVID, and it was a cooperation between North County Land Trust and the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. The 3rd case study, Nick Pratt helped the Warren Pole family to get their land conserved within the town of Chelmsford recently. Again, another COVID project. One of the videos that I'm going to show is of Slater Anderson and a project that he was instrumental in catalyzing and kind of shepherding through on Cuttyhunk that involved hundreds of acres. And on Cuttyhunk, that's very significant. A significant portion of the island was conserved recently. The final case study is just a small case study. A recent client needed some help shepherding a conservation restriction from beginning to end, and they hired LandVest to help do that and really just quarterback the process. So those are the case studies. You can take a look at the PDF that we're going to share, or you can contact me if you need the PDF. What I'm going to do now is move through the videos so you can get a better sense as to what LandVest is all about. I have a couple of videos. The first one I'm going to show is one that Jim Monahan put together that focuses on his role as a senior advisor with LandVest. He's based out of the Ipswich, Mass office up on the North Shore and has helped with many transactions up there. So let's see, I'm going to start this. Hold on a sec. I will pause the recording. All right, so that initial share didn't work. I'm going to try to share this one more time. I'm going to share sound, optimize for video clip. And here we go.
All right, my name is Jim Monahan. I'm a senior advisor with LandVest Real Estate Consulting Group. We're here in Ipswich, Massachusetts on the North Shore of Boston. And I've been with the company for close to 30 years now. People ask me what my job consists of, and I say I'm a real estate consultant with LandVest in Boston. And I use that because it's the short answer. The long answer is we get engaged in a really broad range of projects for people. And I might get a call on a Monday from somebody that wants their property appraised because they want to put it on the market. And then the next day I might get a call from someone saying that they're one of 4 or 5 siblings and 2 of us want to sell and 1 wants to stay and 1's interested in conservation. And by the way, it's 500 acres in 16 parcels in 4 counties. So every property poses a new set of challenges. We get called in pretty routinely by our brokers to help them just the way we help clients sometimes, and we'll help them tear the property apart and then reassemble it and triage the issues that affect it and give them a firm opinion of value that'll kind of guide their marketing process. In doing this for almost 30 years, I've been confronted with a pretty broad spectrum of issues and problems, and you have to study up on something that you're not necessarily fluent with. But over the course of many years, you end up being conversant in a pretty broad range of issues that affect one problem and one property. And if a client calls us with 1,000 acres in Vermont, we have access to our timber guys, and we can do a timber cruise and determine the timber capital value on a property. We can go in and map the property in a way that it's never been mapped before without having to do an on-the-ground survey. And there's a lot to land planning that if you get the answer right, then the appraisal that follows it is very accurate. And when I'm asked, what do we do differently than companies like us? And I can't go to the yellow pages and point to a company that does what we do, locally or even regionally or nationally. The original founding of the company was this mix of consulting and marketing and timberland analysis and investment analysis, and that in itself differentiates the company. And and our ability to have 3 different divisions of the company work on the same project, in some instances is really a special place. I've worked in, I think, 32 states. And some of the more fulfilling projects and more gratifying projects I've done have been local conservation projects. And, you know, getting up in the morning and going out to Sagamore Hill and running in the woods when there's nobody there. It's nice to have played a role in helping that happen. And it's permanent, and nobody's going to ever change the use of the property. You know, I think what differentiates a good consultant from a not so good consultant is your ability to make a sound judgment based on the work you've done. So, you know, most projects I like to step back and say, I think I got the judgment right. You know, that's why the phone keeps ringing.
All right, that was the first video that I wanted to share. And the second video is one that Slater Anderson helped put together on Cuttyhunk.
Cuttyhunk Island is a very unique place. It's not like other locations. In some ways, it's the crown jewel of Buzzards Bay. When we were approached to potentially do a once-in-a-lifetime conservation sale, we reached out to the Buzzards Bay Coalition, and it was no surprise that the Buzzards Bay Coalition had strong interest in planting a stake, on Cuttyhunk and adding it to their long list of preserves that they have, which are managed for the public, and that was an important part of this project.
Typically, when we're looking to protect the most important land around the bay, we're looking for three things. Land that protects water, land that protects wildlife, and land that serves people. And for the land on Cuttyhunk, we hit all of those three things. I've always said I don't think there's a person who can walk to the top of the hill on Cuttyhunk and look out at Buzzards Bay and not fall in love with this place. And we want people to be in love with this place because people who care about Buzzards Bay are people who protect the bay. And I think Cuttyhunk has a unique magic to it that brings people into bay protection.
One of the challenges on Cuttyhunk is that there's very little really truly public land or town-owned land. So this was really significant in providing permanent access to significant amount of land for hiking, for trails. Along with that, there was the town acquired ownership of one of the major beaches, which had been privately owned and conceivably could have been restricted from public use depending on who the future owner was. So when you manage a project, you need to be smart about understanding in advance what the issues are, and that's where LandVest comes in with such great value.
Conservation is so critical, especially for businesses like mine that depend on really clean water, and we can depend on that on a year-round basis. But it's organizations like LandVest that are making sure everybody's sitting at the table, asking those good, right questions, which results in better land management, which ties into better water quality, and just the uniqueness of Cuttyhunk Island.
There are firms out there that do land planning. There are firms out there that do engineering, survey work. But there are no firms that combine that land planning with the valuation. That's the real LandVest difference, and the ability to provide problem solving on complex projects to achieve an outcome that is considered a success by all involved. So the opportunity to be a part of this project, the conservation of these beaches and the assuring public access in perpetuity, it's personally rewarding. And it has a very emotional place in people's lives.
people grow up swimming and fishing and walking, seeing sunsets, and all of those uses are preserved. I think what's really exciting is they're also preserved for everybody who has yet to discover Cuttyhunk.
All right, well, it's not the session that we had, but that will have to suffice. Thanks for your time and enjoy the rest of the conference.